So as the questions are about the O-Level English language oral examination on the 15th of July, let me first explain the examination process. Candidates are first seated at the silent preparation station. The candidates view a computer screen with three components simultaneously displayed: the examination instructions, a text prompt, and a video. They are given 10 minutes at this station to prepare a planned response for their oral presentation. After 10 minutes, the candidate is called to the examiner's station. The oral examiner reads out the same text prompt and invites the candidate to commence the presentation. There is another examiner present. Candidates are given 2 minutes to deliver their planned response. This is followed by the spoken interaction component, where the candidate engages in a discussion with the oral examiners on a topic based on the video clip. All national examination material are subjected to a rigorous and secure process of authoring, review, and approval. The oral examinations are accessed through the Singapore Examinations and Assessment Board's e-examination system. Digital logs monitor all activities carried out in the system to ensure the integrity of the processes. For each oral examination session, only one version of the examination material is stored on SEAB's e-examination system. All examination centers access the same examination material when they log into SEAB's e-examination system. The materials are encrypted and can only be accessed by authorized personnel. Before the start of each session, the assessment specialist at SEAB checks that the prompt shown on screen to candidates during the silent preparation and the prompt shown to the oral examiners tally exactly with the prompt on the question paper in hard copy. Once the examination has commenced, the material cannot be amended. During the examination, all stations in the examination centers, including the candidate's silent preparation stations and the oral examiners' stations, access the same approved, secure, encrypted examination material from the e-examination system. There were 389 oral examination teams across schools, with each team comprising 2 trained oral examiners, assessing 13 candidates per session. The video presented to candidates depicted street barbers at work. The prompt for the planned response segment was, "Who do you think would go to a place like this for a haircut? Why do you say so?" On the day of the examination, 173 candidates from 76 different schools reported that the prompt for the planned response segment displayed on their screen at the silent preparation station was different from the one that was posed by the oral examiners. In the following days, the number of candidates who reported similar issues concerning the 15th of July oral examination increased to 432 from 102 schools. Close to 5,000 candidates sat for the GCE O-Level English language oral examination on the 15th of July 2026. On the 15th of July itself, SEAB took immediate actions to investigate. SEAB verified that the examination material by making, SEAB verified the examination material by making system-level checks and by logging into candidates' individual accounts in the e-examination system, which shows the prompt and video accessed by the candidates. The investigation showed that the prompt on the candidates' screens matched the prompt in the approved examination materials. SEAB subsequently also reviewed all the digital logs of the authoring and delivery of the examination material from SEAB's e-examination system and the digital logs of what was displayed on individual candidates' screens during the silent preparation for all candidates who reported a discrepancy. In addition, cybersecurity checks were conducted to ascertain if the e-examination system had been compromised. Investigations showed that in all examination centers, oral examiners and candidates accessed the same examination material during the oral examination on the 15th of July 2026. There was no evidence of a system malfunction. There was no discrepancy in the prompt displayed to candidates and oral examiners. There was only one source that all candidates and examiners' accounts accessed. There was also no cybersecurity incident detected. We also observe no discernible pattern of these incidents. The 432 candidates who reported a discrepancy came from 200 different oral examiner teams. There was also no particular order to the affected candidate. For instance, it was the second and eighth out of 13 candidate for one oral exam. So in that sequence, this oral exam team would examine 13 candidates, and it was the second and eighth candidate reporting a discrepancy, with the other candidates reporting no discrepancy. And for another oral team, it was the third and 10th candidate, for example. To be clear, the discrepancies reported were not about what the oral examiners asked, only that the recollection of the text prompt at the preparation station was different from what the oral examiner read out. The reported discrepancies also demonstrated significant variation, with different phrases recalled by different students, including by students that were examined at the same center and by the same oral examination team. The actual prompt shown was, "Who do you think would go to a place like this for a haircut? Why do you say so?" Some candidates reported reading the prompt as, "Would you go?" Others reported reading the prompt as, "Would you visit? Would you be interested? Would you like? Would you want? Would you cut your hair at the place shown? Would you get your hair cut? And why would I go?" Putting together the technical details, the distribution pattern of the incidents across the stations, schools, and time, as well as the variety of phrases reported by the students, SEAB has concluded that the cause for these incidents was not technical in nature, nor the result of a deliberate or malicious act. We understand that the experience would have been unsettling for the affected candidates. Parents and candidates can be assured that our oral examiners are experienced teachers who assessed candidates based on what they demonstrated during the examination, including how they developed and presented their ideas and opinions, and how effectively they engaged the examiner during the discussion. The preliminary data shows that the mean score for the oral examination on the 15th of July is comparable to that of the other 4 sessions in 2026. In addition, the mean score of the 432 candidates who reported the prompt discrepancy is also comparable to the mean score of the remaining candidates who sat for the oral examination on the 15th of July 2026. So therefore, as a group, the candidates who reported discrepancies fared as well as other candidates who did not report any discrepancy. There might be some candidates who experienced significant distress arising from the circumstances. This might have affected their ability to provide a suitable response. Schools are working with these candidates to apply for special consideration. Special consideration is an established evidence-based process by examination boards to review the final subject grades for candidates whose performance had been adversely affected by circumstances beyond their control during the examinations. This is to ensure fair assessment. Each application will be evaluated on its merits. We thank candidates, parents, and schools for bringing their concerns to our attention. We take these reports very seriously. SEAB conducted a thorough investigation before coming to the conclusion that the same prompt was displayed for all candidates. SEAB will review the oral examination processes for students to read the oral prompt more carefully during the 10-minute preparation time. SEAB also remains committed to ensuring that all candidates, including those who might have misread the prompt, are assessed fairly. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Aniso.
I thank the SMS for his substantive reply. In relation to the special considerations that he has shared with this House earlier, I also understand from my resident that that has been the reply from SEAB to one of my residents whose child has been affected. In this regard, can I inquire, so far in relation to the, I think, if I recall correctly, there are over 500 cases that were reported of discrepancies that were highlighted? 100 plus 400, 400 plus in total, I beg your pardon. So have any of these students actually follow up with a special considerations? And in such instance, what will be the process taken, and whether the students who have put in the appeal will eventually be updated that their results have actually taken in the circumstances that have transpired? Thank you.
SMS Janil.
So I thank Ms. Haniso for the question. Certainly the applicants for special consideration will be updated and engaged on the process. The process of special consideration is is still in process. So I think perhaps not appropriate for me to comment on the specifics. Each case will be evaluated, and the process of special consideration is to look at the particular circumstances of each case. Certainly some applications have been made, and potentially further applications will be made. So I think we have to let that process play out.
Mr. Andrello.
Thank you, Speaker. So I have two SQs. The first is that, if I may paraphrase what I'm hearing as the explanation or what the investigation has uncovered, is that the system architecture by its very nature would not permit the incident that students are describing from happening because of the nature of the fact that it's a single question stored in a database and it's a single question transmitted to all terminals. That being said, I understand also that centralized logs were also checked to make sure that this was indeed what happened. Can the ministry share if in the terminals themselves maintain any logs and whether these logs can be investigated? To see whether what was displayed, was it recorded what was actually displayed on the screen of the individual terminals as opposed to in the centralized database. So that's my first SQ. My second SQ is essentially on the nature of the question itself. So it would seem that given that MOE is convinced that no actual variation in the question displayed happened, but about 8 to 9% of students who took the exam experienced this, would MOE consider varying the way they set oral examination questions in the future? I understand that reading comprehension is, of course, one of the elements being tested in oral examination, but I would argue it's probably not the main element being tested. Would MOE consider in the future setting questions or user testing questions such that such incidents won't arise again in the future and cause potential distress to our students? Thank you.
SMS Janil.
So I thank Mr. Loh for the questions. On his first point, indeed, the investigation involved the individual terminals, including re-logging on with the student using, let me say that again, sir, including logging on with the student's ID and authentication so that the exact same handshake between the terminal and the centralized database was carried out and see what was returned as material. So very thorough from a technical perspective. I would point out that his 8 to 9% is on that day. I presume he's taking the 432 divided by 5,000, but that was for that day only. The total number, of course, of people taking the examination across the 4 days is approximately 4 times as many. Yes, indeed, SEAB will look to learn from this incident how we can reduce the risk of prompts being misread and guide the students about the preparation better, both in terms of the preparation for the exam and during the exam itself. And part of that technical professional skill set is to look at how specific phrases or words are used within examination prompts, and SEAB will certainly do this.
Associate Professor James Lim.
Sir, I believe the incident reports of the anomaly were made by a number of individuals, not only by, and I have to be careful about the use of this word here, at least 432 students, but also by the teachers themselves. Now, I accept that SEAB did their due diligence in verifying that there were no computer issues and that could have given rise to the alleged outcome. And it is on this basis that the SMS has asserted that there were no errors. Now, I wonder then, is SEAB implicitly suggesting that there could have been an occasion of collective hallucination that occurred on that day? And if so, does this mean that the investigation would have perhaps implicitly privileged computer forensic evidence over the contemporary testimony of a significant number of human witnesses?
SMS Janil.
Sir, implicit in Mr. Lim's question is that what he describes as a collective hallucination, that all the students recalled the same phrase. And as our investigations have demonstrated, the students demonstrated significant variance in the many phrases that they recalled. So I think his implication that we're privileging one set of information over the other is incorrect. We're looking at both the testimony as well as the technical assessment. And the fact that the testimonies covered a wide variation in the phrases in itself is a very significant data point. So I would ask him to perhaps not put words in my mouth about collective hallucinations, nor imply a privileging of one set of data over the other. I think in my response I've explained how we take all the data very seriously.
Mr. Kenneth Tiong.
Thank you, Speaker. 3 SQs. First, factual question. Reports were filed on that day by SEAB's own examination personnel at the schools. So how many irregularity reports did SEAB receive concerning the 15th of July English oral? Not complaints from candidates, but actually reports filed by its own oral examiners and presiding officers. And if the ministry does not have this figure today, will they undertake to provide it? Now, it seems very peculiar to me that 432 candidates from 132 schools reported it on day 3, and day 3 alone. They didn't report it on day 1, day 2, or day 4. So to me, it's highly anomalous. SQ2, did SEAB examine the candidates' contemporaneous physical planning sheets against the examiner's script? And SQ3, since SEAB has all the evidence needed, the login logs, the examiner's marking comments, the contemporaneous planning sheets, as well as the audio from the session, will the ministry allow someone outside SEAB to look at them to conduct an external investigation?
SMS Janil.
Sir, I don't have the numbers for the officers reporting. We can certainly look that up. We have examined the contemporaneous planning sheets. Hard to correlate those with specific reports because many of the contemporaneous planning sheets did not have candidates' names written on them. That's not a requirement. But the information from the contemporaneous planning sheets does in some cases indicate that the student had misread the prompt. And in some cases, it indicates that the student had misread the prompt, started planning on that basis, and then corrected themselves. And so on one sheet, we can see the student having written down what they thought originally was the prompt, and then crossing that out, and then writing the correct prompt, and then planning from there. Indeed, we have had GovTech come in to audit the technical platforms, the processes, and so forth, and they have come to the same conclusion as SEAB.
Mr. David Ho.
I thank the SMS for his response, and my question comes from conversation with parents who accept the fact that their children might have misinterpreted or misread the question under examination pressure. So 3 SQs. First, is the ability to accurately process a question under exam pressure part of a skill being to be accessed under oral examination? Second, if so, how are students prepared for this? Because unlike written exams, which students experience across many subjects, they may have fewer opportunities to practice this skill set to respond under exam pressure. Third, parents would like to know, when the candidate reported the question has been asked differently from what they saw in the terminal, could we clarify what was the process thereafter?
SMS Janil.
Sir, I thank Mr. Ho for his questions. His first 2 questions, I think, are a little bit outside the remit of this PQ, which is about the examination process, and more about the overall preparation for the subject and the curriculum and the approach taken to prepare students. But across all subjects, certainly the way in which our students approach an examination is very much part of the preparation in the classroom, in the development of the student across the curriculum, across the syllabus, and the skills and techniques that they learn in the classroom. Some of that will be about how to deal with errors, deal with the emotional state that they're in. So I think it's a quite beyond the remit of the PQ today, but I thank him for highlighting this. It is indeed an important part of the work that's done by the teachers. He then asked about the process after reporting. Can I just ask, what is it he's asking about? I didn't quite understand what he meant.
Mr. Ho?
I think the SMS. So basically, parents' question after a child report that the question that they saw on the terminal and the question asked was different. What happened after?
With the examiner?
With the exam at that point, yeah.
SMS channel?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ho's clarified that he's talking about what is happening with the examiner rather than the investigation of the incident. The examiners are trained in a process of positive marking. They are not looking for absolute compliance with a template answer. They're looking in this exam for the students to demonstrate their skill, their oral skill with their language, what vocabulary they're using, their sentence structure, how they use grammar and tense, how they present their ideas, how they organize their ideas, and how they build upon ideas over the course of the presentation. So, and this is one of the reasons why you can see that the marks are comparable, because the students were able to speak. Sometimes they had prepared incorrectly, but nevertheless were able to speak well, either on the initial subject that they thought they were presenting on, or when corrected on the prompt that they heard from the examiner. And so, within their presentation was enough material demonstrating their ability with the language. So this approach of positive marking then allows the examiner to draw out the skills that the student has and provide them an appropriate mark. So that is the process. And it applies regardless of whether the students hesitate, perhaps ask a question about the prompt. There is this approach of positive marking, looking for the ability for the student to demonstrate the skills that they have, not blind compliance with a template, nor a negative marking approach, looking for mistakes.